All right. So I've been live for 5 seconds, standing here staring at everybody, at nobody, whatever. Welcome back to my channel. This is Rob here. It's Smirking Reviews. Check it out. We actually have a shirt. And my hair is so long that you can barely see it. But anyway, yes, I want to thank everybody for being here. Uh, this is really, really crazy, everybody. Before we get into this, I want to talk about what I'm doing right now at this point. Again, I'm sitting in a room with a mattress behind me. It's my mattress. I'm in the between places right now. I'm going to be moving into another place, my own place, very soon. Not that soon, but right now, I am staying with a family member, and this is how we have to do things. And it's really crazy because I'm recording this on my phone because my laptop has not been working very well, and the connection has been spotty at best. And I'm back to recording on my phone for right now. And what's crazy about that is, and it didn't even occur to me up until just recently, was that this is how I started making my videos in the very first place, all the way back in like, I guess, right around the time of episode uh, 7 or whatever. No, no, no. Whatever The Force Awakens came out. And the beginning of my channel really started on my phone, and how I never knew if things were going to work. I didn't know if my phone was going to be able to handle things, and it didn't always. But all this time learning everything that I've learned on how to make videos and everything, I think it's kind of fun that I'm back here doing things the old way. And it's okay. And you know what? It's kind of nice, and it's kind of humbling, but also nice to know that if I ever need to in a pinch, I can go back to this. So as soon as we get back to my new place and everything, we will have everything back to the way it was, hopefully. But I want to thank everybody's support for this, because in quality, the phone thing can go up and down. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Um, So let's just get into it. Again, like, subscribe, all that jazz that you have to do. Again, Smirking Reviews. It's a t-shirt now. So we're talking about The Last of Us, season 1, episode 3. It just ended a couple of minutes ago. I watched all the stuff, the coming up and the behind the scenes. And yes, also you should be checking out the podcast that they make that's on, I'm sure, right now. Hosted by Troy Baker himself, and with the creators Neil Druckmann and I'm forgetting Craig something. I forget his name. That's a fantastic podcast. And honestly, a lot of the things that they talk about in the podcast, we end up talking about here at the same time. So it's nice to know that we're kind of on the same page as the creators, as far as what they're thinking of what we're thinking, the what they think the negatives are going to be, what the positives are going to be. It all kind of lines up. And my reaction again to this episode is kind of the same as what I've been saying since episode 1. It's amazing. It's an amazing show. My my reaction to it though was a little different this week, because I did have to go. This is the biggest departure from the games that they've done. But what they said in the end, behind the scenes stuff, was really good. It was like, if we can do if something better than what was in the game, then we're gonna do that thing. And we're gonna be talking full game spoilers as well as episode spoilers. So if you've not played the game, sorry. This is for people that have done both. It's real easy to do the research on this. Um, but this is the big Bill episode. This is the big episode where in the game, Joel and Ellie go to Bill's because he's the guy who has things. He can help get them set on their way with guns and supplies and things like that. In the game, we explore his little gated off community, and we eventually find Bill, and he begrudgingly helps us. We know that he had a partner named Frank, who we end up finding in the game, who has died. He has been bit and he hung himself. And there's subtext there, in the game about their relationship that if they when they did it here in the show, they didn't leave anything to subtext, but they also changed uh, their basically their entire story outside of them knowing Joel and Tess and having the community and everything. A lot of that is different, and that's good. It was different, but it was very good. I did have to keep my head going, well, it's different, so, but it's all right. Now, while the game had subtext and you could ignore it if you weren't really looking about their relationship, this is probably where you're going to see some people have a bit of an issue with this episode. Either with they'll try to use the whole "it's not the same" excuse when really they're probably saying something else, which is they're not hiding the fact that Bill and Frank were in fact together. And if you have a problem with that, well, I don't know what to tell you because I fully support it. And I fully support what they did here on the show for it. Because what's interesting is a lot of the games are very, very depressing. We all, if you don't know that already by this episode, yeah, if you played the game, it is just lots and lots and lots of human tragedy. And when you find Bill and you find out, like Frank and everything, his attitude towards the whole situation is very passive aggressive, but you can tell that there was something there between them. And there's also, I believe, a letter that you find uh, that kind of says what Bill said to Joel, basically about, never really liked you, that kind of thing. But it was all posturing. But I really, really like what they did here. I called this the Last of Us version of the beginning of Pixar's Up, uh, because the game's story is much more bleaker for Bill. Is basically what I'm trying to say. And in this, we get a much more hopeful story, even if it ends in kind of tragedy. These are two people that have been living, were living together for 20 years. Starting in a very awkward place of falling into a pit to being, this guy's partner for 20 years. And I really liked seeing all that. I really liked seeing them be able to step out of the Joel and Ellie story to tell a story about love. Because a lot of what they talk about when they do interviews and discussing the themes of this game, the first game is about love. Like what love gets you to do, what love, uh, good and bad. And in this case, it's good. And what I like is that even though part of me wants that original storyline from the game, if you're going to flesh it out, and they fleshed it out great. So it wasn't just Bill, and Frank uh, suddenly flash forwarding to him just being missing or something. We got to see how one man at the beginning of this thing is one way and ends up another way, and how love changed that. And it was really, really sweet to watch. But it was also a challenge because Nick Offerman uh, is famous. One of the most famous things he's known for, of course, is for playing Ron Swanson on Parks and Recreation, a very manly, manly, manly man. And in real life, he's a manly, manly man, and works with his hands and does things. So for some people, probably seeing old Ron Swanson like this was a shock, and it is for me too. But mostly just because he's never had a chance to, really play something like this, and he did a fantastic job. And I don't usually use the word brave when it comes to like acting choices or story choices for actors, but man, this comes close to it. Um, and I really like seeing Murray Bartlett in this because as Frank, I know a lot of HBO shows like to keep it in the family, but I wasn't a very big fan of the White Lotus season one. But Murray Bartlett's character from that, and I won't spoil anything from that show, was my favorite part. Mostly because if you work customer service, you understand what that life is like. And I thought that he was doing a really great job in that show, playing a guy who's at the end of his rope as far as uh, customer service lives go. Uh, so that's really my reaction to it all. As it's another fantastic episode that gets fleshed out really, really effectively. Um, we get to see a little more Anna Torv, so that's great. Get to see her and Joel having dinner. I like that. But we'll start off properly on this, where we start with the 10 miles west of Boston. Um, and it's a good place for them to give us a little more exposition. Uh, for people that really weren't getting it, maybe some of it about the flour and sugar factory in Indonesia. Also catching seeing people catch the whole thing with them feeding the biscuits to the grandma, and it's like, oh, they fed her enough over time, and that's how she got sick. And Ellie gets that explained to her, and I think the audience gets that explained to him a little bit better. Um, I again, the way that they've been delivering exposition in this show has been pretty darn good. Um, and so we know that they're going to see Bill, and this is where the big flashback starts, and it goes all the way to the end. So we get Joel and Ellie on the bookends of this thing. Joel a little bit in the story just to show that they had at least two friends in Joel and Tess. Um, and this is where the whole episode basically becomes this love story. And I really, really, like I said, as much as it deviates, it's a much more hopeful story. It was something that I was wrestling slightly with because, as far as tone goes, do you want a show that's exactly like the game? And to be exactly like the game, you almost have a complete, the tone almost never changes except for a very quick, brief moment of brevity and maybe some banter between Joel and Ellie. And that, a lot of that gets chalked up to how great Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson were in the game when it comes to that stuff. Um, so them taking the more, and even though it ends in tragedy, them taking the more hopeful approach, I think, works best for the show. Um, because if you put something out there that's so bleak, um, like Walking Dead, you can call Walking Dead bleak, right? But after a while, it's kind of, you kind of got used to it. But it also, Walking Dead had so many characters to bounce off of, and there were a lot of moments of brevity and things like that. But The Last of Us is way more bleak. And as far as adapting it for a TV show, I think you have to show a little bit more hope. So for the audience's sake. And so when you get to see these little moments, like when he's playing Linda Ronstadt on the piano, and which was a great choice. And he's sitting there, like he starts to sing, and seeing Frank trying to pull Bill out of, like, get work the person out of Bill, get Bill out of himself to be, kind of open up and let him, kind of let him off his guard so much, because he can tell that Bill's, freaked out about the whole situation of having another person there. And just watching those things, just like watching him soften, also kind of makes me feel like the comparison that's happening between Joel and Ellie. Watching Joel start to slightly soften here and there as the story goes on, still fighting it. But it ends that all for these two characters who aren't going to go any further in the story. But he's playing the piano, and I almost feel like maybe he did it so that he, like, I'm going to do this so that you do it better, and then I'll get to know not just a little bit more about you, but it might help you to sit there and play that song that you like, that you haven't played probably in a really long time. That's been, the little notes, the music sheets, just sitting in that. How long would they sit there? Probably forever. So he gets him to play that song. It gets emotional, and then he has that line of "Who's the girl?" and he's like, "There's no girl," and he goes, "I know." And that was just genius. That's just great writing. That's such a great line of like, you know that this guy is good at pulling that out of people. Like he's a really in Frank's way, like not seeing Frank in the game now is going to be a little hard. It's going to be a little hard playing it a little bit, I think, because I'll have had this version of him to look at. So when you find Frank hanging in the game, which you do, it's going to be more sad now. So thanks for making the game sadder, but the show a little bit lighter because of it. Um, he also says, like, when he's talking about, which is one of the things in the game that drives Frank away, I think, in the game was hope. I think that Frank had a bit more hope than Bill did. Uh, and that's reflected in the show as well, that Frank wants to go out there and still be a part of the world that's left, while Bill still wants to stay within. And in the game, Frank and Bill separate, but Frank doesn't really go that far away. But they've just decided to never see each other again. And like that's just so sad. That's just so much more sad than this. Um, but in the show, he, of course, does not. He keeps convincing Bill to go along with things, to show the love and the beauty and the hope that's still out there. Um, so when he's out in the yard and they're arguing over taking care of the rest of things around them, and he has the line, "Paying attention to things is how we show love." It's such a great, it's just another great line, another great piece of writing on this show that really is, it made me think about that line a little bit. Like people that, if you give somebody a little attention that maybe, you know, it made me think to start maybe paying a little better attention to some people around me that might need a little like attention. People that I care about that maybe I haven't reached out to a little bit. And that when a line can make you have those kind of thoughts, you know, that's it means it's working, at least for me. Um, the strawberries. The strawberries apparently that was another just this again. This is full of all these like really sweet moments. Uh, it just happened to be with two guys, so get over it. And anybody who can't get over that part, whatever. But I loved the strawberries because the strawberries were what brought out the Ron Swanson famous giggle that I have not heard since Parks and Rec, like what ended years ago now. Uh, I love that. Um, when he tells Frank, "I was never afraid before you showed up." Just it's like some of these lines are almost like a Last of Us Woody Allen movie. Um, and even I do wish that there was a bit more of the attack on on his like little community, but I did really like that he's out there with a sniper rifle and flamethrowers and just taking out people like. And we have the contrast, which is Bill gets shot, and even though we're pretty sure that Bill's right when he says, "Don't worry about it. Those who aren't killed by the flamethrowers, the fence is going to take care of the rest of them." And he's ready to die, and he's telling Frank to call Joel. "You can't be alone. I don't want you to like, just die out here without anybody." And we cut to this moment where Bill thinks he's going to die to 10 years later, and it's 2023, and Bill's walking around, but Frank's in a wheelchair dying of what I can only assume is cancer or something along those lines. And that contrast, because, like Frank was the healthy one, Frank was slightly younger, Frank was running around, he had a bit more youthful vim and vigor. And now it's Bill taking care of Frank and him deciding that he wants to take his own way out of this world. And I called it. I turned to my sister and I said, "Oh, he's totally going to die with him." I said he's totally gonna. As soon as he brought up the pills, it said, "I want you to put these in the wine for me." I went, "Oh, it's Bill's gonna take. Bill's gonna drink the wine too, and they're both gonna die." And my sister just looked at me, and after it happened, she's like, "You called it." I've seen too many things. I've seen too many shows, and after they deviated, I from the game, I just like I saw a whole different way it was gonna go. It didn't change the impact for me because I actually was hoping that Bill wouldn't die. I was hoping like after Frank would approve of this and that, but it's also really romantic. I was hoping that Bill would still be there for Joel and Ellie to find. But then I also thought this, and it's why I changed my mind about that. When you're playing The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, you do a lot of exploring of empty places full of sad, sad, sad tragedy, whole families in beds and kids and everything. It's just an onslaught of sadness. And you get letters, you find letters and you see things. And you always in games, you're always finding letters and things of tragic ends. And you can see the end of someone and you get a letter and you have to imagine how everything fell apart and they all ended up dead. This is kind of that story to fill in the gap for all those tragic stories that you don't have an ending to while you're exploring and how seeing the story of at least one couple who is found by someone, and this we get to actually see the events of what went down instead of just imagining it for ourselves, kind of a stand-in for a lot of the things that they found uh, during your exploration of the game or whatever. um, and so I thought that that was really great. Also, after they die and Joel and Ellie come there, I thought they handled that really well too. And Ellie reading the letter and getting to the uh, part where he's like, uh, I had to bring up in my Discord where we were doing the viewing party that laugh is the exact laugh of one of my good friends here. That's in the chat. I'm not going to bust you on your laugh because I love it. So anyway, uh, it's so again, it's one of those things where the deviation is better than what was there. Is it a little too Hollywood hopeful? Maybe. Maybe. Does it change the tone a little bit? Yes. But it definitely works. And I think for a television audience and things like that, you want a little more hope and in such a bleak world. And I think that a lot of it, like I said before, it can wear you down. All the just bleakness. And even though it ends in death, there's still hope. There was hope in this episode. And so that's all I've got. I hope that that's enough. There's going to be plenty of people that you guys can like talk to. Definitely check out the podcast. But I'm really still, like I was actually worried about having anything to say about this episode because it's otherwise just me going, it's fucking amazing. And Last of Us is probably going to win like best drama series, best acting, blah, blah, blah. Definitely best special effects and things like that. Uh, so next week we'll be back for episode 4, and I hope you guys are there. So don't forget to check out the channel, like, subscribe. If you're wondering why, again, it says Smirking Rob Plays, it's because that's my Twitch handle. If you go over to my Twitch channel, you can see me talk about things and play video games. And it's also the secondary site. Again, if one of these live streams goes down, I will automatically go to Twitch and finish it there and then re-upload it to YouTube later. I even uploaded a video today of me playing Crisis Core where I end up talking about people who do impersonations of Al Pacino for some reason. And I thought it was funny enough to export over to my YouTube channel. So yes, once again, everybody, great show. I want to thank my friend Gino for hooking me up with this shirt. And I love you guys. Keep watching. And is it Sunday yet? Take care, everybody. Bye.